Hello and welcome to the British Book Guy. So today I wanted to talk to you about something that you may have heard of, you may have come across yourself, and that quite simply is book fear. So this could be a fear of reading a book that you've heard wasn't going to be very good, so you're not very keen on reading it because you just expect the worst. Sorry Stephanie mate. The main reason I found for book fear is because you're so attached to the book and you read it at such a different time in your life that you don't want to read it now that you've changed and your priorities have shifted and you're such a different person that you fear that if you come back to it you're not going to like the book anymore. And that is the main reason that I found for book fear. So you're such a different person and you read this maybe when you were quite young and you've got really fond thoughts of it, and at the time it really spoke to you. It really meant a lot that you read it at this time, and since then you're not the same person and you've changed a lot. So you don't want to come back to this book and just dislike it, not because it's any worse, but because it doesn't speak to you anymore, because when you read it, it meant so much and it spoke to you on so many different levels, and now it just doesn't, and it's flat and it's boring, and you've changed, so the book has changed because you're not reading it from the same place you'd read it from before, and it's just not as good. So for me, the two books that I came across at the right time quite recently were these two here. So I just finished my own novel, or I was just finishing up my own novel when I read these two, and I'd spent 3 years on it and I wanted to just write something else. So I just read especially this book, which is amazing and you should read it, but these books really hit me hard, and I think I read them at exactly the right time that I needed to. Like I said, just as I was finishing Loki. So what I did was I tried to combine these two. I tried to take what I'd learned and what I liked about these, and I just tried to write something simple. So these two are really good books that I read at exactly the right time in my life. The rest of this episode will be promoted by a delicious cup of tea. Where was I? So my own book fear is in fact The Amber Spyglass. So I first read this when I was about 13. And I read it again when I was 15, and it was about the same time I was reading The Goblet of Fire from the Harry Potter series, as I'm sure you know. Sometime when I was reading this, or when I just finished it, or around that time, I knew that I wanted to be a writer, so it's just down to this book and The Goblet of Fire that has decided what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I've been writing now for over a decade, so it's something I've really stuck at, and it's all thanks to this book. And that's why this is the book that I am most scared to read, because it's the one that's had the most effect on me throughout my entire life. I read it again when I was 15 after I'd been writing for a few years, and I enjoyed it just as much as I did then. But I haven't read it since, and so that's nearly 10 years since I haven't read the book, since I've been too scared to read it. And the thing is that since then I've changed a lot. I've finished high school, I've finished university, I've worked a few jobs, and I've read so much as well. My perspectives have changed. How I read and what I like to read is completely different than what I read when I was 13. Because when I was 13, I didn't know more than 20 words, so this mug is as big as my face. So since then I've read books. I've read things like American Gods by Neil Gaiman, On the Road by Jack Kerouac, 1984, which is also amazing, Flowers for Algernon, The Cement Garden, and Slaughterhouse 5, which I liked enough to get the main quote tattooed on me. I don't know if you can read that, but so it goes. So when I come back to this, what I read and how I read are just completely different, and it's really scared me from reading this because I have such fond memories of it, and I just like it so much, even though I'm waggling about like nothing else. It is such a good book, and it meant so much to me when I was a kid, and now I'm scared it won't mean anything to me now that I'm a little bit older. I'm 10 years older. And I think that's what book fear is. It's not being the same person as you were when you first read the book. It is being a completely different person and having lived through lots of different life experiences and changed what you like. Not just your reading, it could be what you like to watch, what kind of films you want to see, literally anything. If anything's changed, then you are not the same person, and you might not like the same kind of books, but these are the kind of books that really matter to you when you were younger. And now that you're not younger, and now that you're older, and you've read different books, and you've lived different life experiences, and you've met new people, and you've done lots of exciting things, you can't come back to them with the same mind that you read them with in the first place. And that's a real shame. And that's what book fear is. It's reading a book and then being a different person, and being too scared to read the same book because you know you're not the same person you were when you first read the book. And who knows, maybe my fears were unfounded. I might read the book and discover something I never noticed before and fall in love with it even more. So let me know if you guys have ever come across a book that you're too scared to read, if you've ever encountered book fear. I'd be really happy to know if you could leave a comment downstairs, or equally let me know if I'm the only one who's ever encountered book fear, because if I need to go and hide in a cupboard for the rest of my life, I need to know that now, if I'm just being weird. So before I go, one last thing. I have a Twitter account now, which I will also link. I'm going to call it downstairs. I think that's my new thing. I'm going to link it downstairs. So give me a follow if you want, guys. I also have a Goodreads account, which I'll also link. So do add me as a friend on Goodreads. I'm currently doing the 52 book a year challenge. So Goodreads is really good. It's how I get most of my new books. And of course, leave a like if you liked.